Lab number 32. In this lab, we will continue development of our technical maintenance assistant application. And right now, we will start with modifying our application.js file, app.js. And we will include here config for our state provider. So I mean states screens our application structure. And first of all, we'll remove everything related to Ionic platform here. We don't need it anymore. And then let's rename the starter to tech, so to be a bit more looking like a real app than just some kind of starter project. And next thing for us is to create a config for state providers. So we will use state provider and URL router provider in order to specify the behavior if no link is matched. And we will start with some default states that we will use, and in our case there will be 4 pages that we will use, or states in Angular terminology. So we will start with state called login. And basically in this state we will have the regular URL like login, and then we'll have template specific for this state, and let's place it inside templates folder that doesn't exist yet, and there we will have login HTML file. And also the last thing, we will specify the controller for our state, and it will be login controller, so just like this. And I will copy and paste this state once again. So we'll have in total 4 states: login, and then main, we will use a different controller for that, let it be main controller. Then we will have details, with details controller. And then we also will have page like do not agree that will be launched if basically the person not accepting the task. And the controller will be the same, it will be details controller. Just like this. And then we will also have this URL router provider to specify what will happen otherwise. And in our case, we will go to login page if no conditions met. And basically that's all for our app.js file. So we've done the main modifications that were needed to. And next thing for us will be actually to modify index.html file. And in this file we will change also the ng app from starter to touch. So just the same way as we did it here. So next step is to prepare controllers, and we will first of all create a new file inside JS folder. We'll call it controllers JS. And here we will specify these controllers within Angular module. So the same one, touch, just like this. And then we will have several controllers. One of them will be, of course, login. Just like this. And then we will also have main controller, details controller, and that's all. Details controller, that's it. And then we will need to include these controllers inside our main Angular module. So we will include it here, just after Ionic, stage controllers. And of course we will also need to include it in our index file, I mean GS file, so we'll do it right after app.js. Controllers.js, and we also need to create templates folder and all the files there. So let's do it. We need to create 4 files, so login, HTML, and then we'll need to create also main, HTML, details, HTML, and don't agree. Just like this. And let's put some sample text inside, so something like Ion view, and of course inside Ion content, and inside that let's put some kind of heading, let it be h2 with just text. So in this case it's don't agree, and we will grab this and paste in other files. So in details, instead of this don't agree, we'll have details. Then in main we'll have main, of course. And in login we'll have login. So just like this. And inside our index we need to replace this part, Ion pane, and includes only navigation with Ion nav view. And basically that's all. So let's do build and deploy and see how our app is looking now. So you see the login here. Actually, we can see the same with live reload. So login is working. Let's check if main page is working. Yeah, we have main page. Let's check details page. We have details and don't agree. So everything is working just as expected, and by default we have login, and the same should actually work here within our desktop browser environment. So let's check main, for example. Yeah, it's working. And don't agree. So everything works as expected. So now let's try to construct our first page, login page. And basically for that we will open this login page in our editor. I'll make it full screen to be easier. And then we will also open another window for our browser, a bit bigger than previous one, and navigate to Ionic Framework website in order to check the docs. And first of all, that we will need to check the header. So we will need to create some kind of header bar. Let it be, for example, bar positive. It doesn't really matter right now. So just before the content, we will have our header. So as you can see, it's already here. We don't need any title actually. So just the header is enough. So next thing, as you remember, we need to place few buttons here. And actually the first one will be responsible for demo mode and the second one will be responsible for change in language. And this is what should be placed in our header. So we will take those buttons again from Ionic documentation, and those buttons will be in a header, just like this. This is the code that we need. We don't need this title between, so just two buttons. And actually we need one of them to be called English, and then we change this, and the second one will be also, instead of icon, it will be button. And this one will be demo. So because we will have blue buttons, it's better to change header to something else, like to stable, to see them. So just like this, those are our two buttons. They're already clickable, but of course nothing is happening. And now we need to specify some kind of logo here, and then two fields for our input for login and password, and then the sign in button. So let's start actually with logo. As you see, the login part is not visible, so we should include class here, like has header, to see it. Yep, so it will do a space after the header. And actually we should replace this with some kind of image, and we already have some in our image folder, so let's use that for now, like icon PNG. just like this, and instead of login, let's type something like TM assistant for technical management, then technical maintenance, sorry, assistant application. And then we need to include login and password boxes, and for that we will go back to our documentation and let's use cards. So just like this, we will have a quite simple card inside, and inside this card we will place actually the list, and in our case let's just step by step do it. So let's copy code for card, and let's preview the changes. So this is the card, how it looks like, and then we will replace the item from a card to our login and password box, and actually we will use that from forms, and there is the forms types called inline, so we will use this part of code from inline labels inside these forms, and actually we will replace this cart item to the code with the code we just grabbed. And just like this, let's see what's happened. So now we have our username and password as a card, and the only thing that we are actually missing the button. So we will add button again from documentation. Let's check what we have inside lists. I believe the cards will be more suitable for our case. Yeah, just like this. For example, this start listening actually represents the button, and this is exactly what we needed. So let's grab this code and place it right here. Just like this. So we will change the styles afterwards, but right now let's just do basic changes like specifying the color, and instead of start listening, let's name this, for example, sign in. And maybe instead of a music note, it's good to kind of put some real icon, and those icons can be taken again from Ionic. So there is a project called Ionic Ions, which is a collection of free icons. And let's use, for example, this arrow. So this is how it will look like. And basically on this step we finished with modifying our first login page. Of course we will need to change the styles afterwards, but the functional aspects and all the items are on their places. So on this step our lab number 3.2 is finished. Thank you.